My beloved child. Take a deep, slow breath in. Release the tension in your shoulders. Let go of the thoughts that have been spinning in your mind all day. The world outside is dark, the noise has faded, and you are completely safe in this space. I want you to quiet your heart right now, because there is something profound happening in the unseen realm, and it concerns you. Last night, while the rest of the world was fast asleep, a sudden shift occurred. Your person, the soul you carry so deeply in your thoughts, the one you have prayed for in the quietest hours of your life, experienced a massive awakening. For months, they have been running. They built high walls, masked their true feelings, and tried to pretend that the connection between you two didn't exist. They immersed themselves in distractions, filled their days with endless noise, and tried to convince themselves that you were just another chapter they could easily close. But last night, the distractions failed them. When the lights went out, and the silence of the midnight hour settled into their room, your energy became overwhelmingly loud. They found themselves staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep, wrapped in an unexplainable restlessness. The universe pulled back the veil of their ego, and for the first time in a very long time, they were forced to sit with the absolute truth of your absence. They realized something huge about you last night. My child. As they looked at the empty space around them, a wave of clarity washed over their soul. They realized that no matter who they meet, no matter where they go, and no matter how hard they try to find a replacement, your place in their heart is completely permanent. They saw your face in the darkness, they remembered the pure warmth of your energy, and the truth hit them with undeniable force: you are entirely irreplaceable. My beloved child. I know how exhausted you have been. I have seen the silent tears you shed on your pillow when you felt completely forgotten. You wondered if you were the only one who cared, if the love you poured out was entirely in vain, and why they chose to walk away into the cold distance. But hear me clearly tonight, their distance was never a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of their own internal fear. Last night, that fear began to crumble. The universe operates with a beautiful, perfect justice. The moment you stopped chasing them, the moment you surrendered the connection to my hands and stepped back into your own light, the spiritual equilibrium shifted. Your silence became a mirror for them. By not reaching out, by letting them experience the reality of life without you, you allowed the universe to do the work that your words never could. They began to review every memory last night. They remembered the way you listened to them, the way you protected their peace, and the rare purity of your love, a love that demanded nothing but gave everything. They felt a sudden, heavy wave of regret. They realized how deeply their pride had blinded them. They saw how they pushed away the one person who truly had their back, all to protect a fragile ego that now leaves them feeling completely empty. They sat with their phone in their hand for hours, opening your chat, looking at your picture, wanting desperately to type a message, but stopping because they suddenly felt unworthy of the light you carry. They are realizing that by walking away from you, they didn't win freedom, they lost their safest harbor. I know you have spent so many nights wondering if your absence is even felt. You look at the silence between you, and the weight of that silence feels like a heavy blanket pressing down on your chest. You have asked yourself, over and over, how someone could just walk away and act as if the memories never existed. But I am here to tell you, the silence you see on the outside is not the reality of what is happening on the inside. Last night, the universe dismantled their armor. When they sat alone, looking out into the darkness, the reality of life without you finally settled into their bones. It was a cold, sharp feeling. They realized that the world is filled with endless faces, filled with people who want something from them, but no one carried the pure, unselfish love that you gave so freely. They began to replay the moment they chose distance over closeness. In their mind, they thought that stepping back would bring them peace. They thought that running away from the intensity of this connection would make their life simpler. But last night, they woke up to the massive realization that they didn't find peace, they just found emptiness. They missed the way your energy could calm their storms. They missed the unspoken understanding that existed between your souls. They felt the invisible cord that binds you together, pulling at their heart with an undeniable force. My beloved child, do not let your heart be troubled by the time that has passed. The ego likes to pretend it is strong, but it cannot survive the quiet truth of the midnight hour. Last night, their pride felt like a heavy anchor dragging them down. They realized that every day they spend pretending they don't miss you is a day they spend lying to themselves. They are beginning to see you clearly now, not through the lens of fear or confusion, but through the lens of absolute truth. They saw how patient you were. They remembered how you stood by them, offering a soft place to land when the rest of the world was harsh. And as they sat with those thoughts last night, a deep sense of unworthiness washed over them. They are starting to understand that you were a rare blessing, a divine gift sent into their life, and they handled that gift with careless hands. The energy has shifted, my child. The one who thought they could walk away without looking back is now the one who cannot stop looking back into the shadows, searching for a glimpse of your light. I see the moments when you look at your life and wonder if you made the right choice by standing your ground. You have spent weeks wrapping yourself in a quiet dignity, refusing to beg for the love you know you deserve. Yet, in the silent spaces of your day, a tiny voice asks if they have completely moved on, if they have erased your name from their story. But I want you to know, you cannot erase an imprint made on the soul. Last night, the universe showed them a glimpse of their future without you, and it terrified them. They realized that they have been chasing illusions, searching for your reflection in people who do not possess your depth. They went out, they stayed busy, they tried to lose themselves in the crowd, but every laugh felt forced, and every conversation felt completely hollow. They realized that the world can offer them excitement, but it cannot offer them peace. As they sat in the quiet of the night, your memory returned to them like a sudden, rushing wave. It wasn't just a casual thought, it was the exact feeling of your presence, the ghost of your touch, and the echo of the promises they broke. They began to realize that the distance they created didn't make them stronger, it only exposed how weak they are without your light to guide them. They felt the heavy, undeniable pull of your energy, a magnetic force that they can no longer fight. My beloved child, I have heard every question you have whispered into the dark. I know you feel like you are waiting in a winter that will never end. But the seeds of change are already growing beneath the snow. Last night, their heart was forced to admit what their pride had been denying for months: they are completely, utterly lost without you. They looked at the choices they made, and for the first time, they saw the wreckage of their own ego. They remembered how you used to look at them, with eyes that saw their flaws and loved them anyway. They realized that no one else will ever look at them that way again. A profound sense of panic settled into their chest last night, a realization that they might have pushed you too far, that they might have broken the one connection that was meant to save them. The spiritual tide has turned, my child. The one who walked away with their head held high is now sitting in the dark, wondering how to find their way back to your warmth. I know there are days when the weight of this connection feels like a test you never asked to take. You look at how easily they seem to move through their life, while you are left holding the pieces of a bond they pretended didn't matter. You have had to look at your own heart and find the strength to silence your longing, choosing instead to trust that everything happens for a reason. But what you do not see is that your silence has become their loudest storm. Last night, the universe stripped away every single excuse they had been using to justify the distance. They sat in the quiet, watching the hours tick away, realizing that the independence they thought they wanted feels completely hollow without you. They looked at their life, their achievements, and the paths they have chosen, only to realize that none of it tastes sweet because they cannot share it with the one soul who truly understood them. They realized that your love was the foundation they took for granted. In the stillness of the night, every memory of your kindness turned into a sharp reminder of what they threw away. They remembered the times you chose to forgive them when they didn't even deserve it, and the way your presence made them feel like they were finally home. Last night, they were forced to admit to themselves that no matter how hard they try to build a new life, every single road they take keeps turning back toward you. They felt a deep, unexplainable urge to hear your voice. A spiritual pull that left them completely restless. My beloved child, do not let the illusion of their absence make you doubt the power of your worth. The ego can only run for so long before it hits a dead end, and last night, their ego completely ran out of road. They spent hours staring at the last message between you, wanting so desperately to break the silence, but the fear of how much they have hurt you kept them paralyzed in the dark. They are finally beginning to see the true value of what they lost, not as a passing thought, but as a deep, permanent reality. They saw your strength last night. They realized that you are no longer the person who will wait around for them to figure out their confusion. They felt the shift in your energy, they felt that you have surrendered them to the universe, and that realization brought a sudden wave of panic to their chest. They are realizing that you were a once-in-a-lifetime blessing, and their greatest fear right now is that they realized it entirely too late. The divine alignment is moving, my child. The one who thought they could live in the cold distance is now shivering in the dark, wondering how to find their way back to your warmth. I watch you as you go about your day, forcing a smile on your face, pretending that the silence from the other side does not affect you. You have mastered the art of looking strong, of looking like you have fully moved on from the very thing that used to keep you awake at night. You tell yourself that if they wanted to, they would, and so, you have stopped waiting, choosing instead to pour your energy back into your own life, your own dreams, and your own healing. But your strength is doing something powerful in the spiritual realm. It is acting as a magnetic vacuum, pulling their thoughts toward you with an intense urgency. Last night, as they sat in the quiet of their room, they felt that sudden shift in your energy. They realized that you are no longer reaching out, you are no longer checking up on them, and you are no longer available to validate their confusion. For a long time, their ego felt safe because they knew you were always there, holding on to hope, waiting in the wings for them to make up their mind. But last night, they felt the cold reality that you have truly let them go into the hands of the universe. And that realization brought an unexplainable panic to their chest. They began to realize that while they were busy playing games with time, thinking they could return whenever they pleased, you were busy growing. They saw how much higher your vibration has become, even from a distance. They looked at your life from afar and realized that you are becoming the absolute best version of yourself, without them. They sat there wondering how they let someone so grounded, someone so genuine, slip through their fingers just because they were too afraid to face their own shadows. They felt a deep, piercing fear that they have finally been replaced by your peace. My beloved child, do not minimize the power of your silence. Your silence is not a sign of weakness. It is the boundary that is forcing them to mature. Last night, they spent hours dissecting the last words you spoke to them, realizing that you gave them more chances than they ever deserved. They saw the absolute purity of your intentions, and they hated themselves for being the reason why a soul as beautiful as yours had to cry in the dark. They are finally realizing that you were the only real thing in a world full of temporary distractions. And they are terrified that they woke up to this truth entirely too late. I see the moments when you look up at the sky and ask the universe for a sign, wondering if the energy you are putting out is just lost in the void. You have spent weeks practicing the art of detachment, trying to convince yourself that what is meant for you will simply find you, and what is not will fade away. Yet, in the quietest corners of your mind, you still hold a small space for them, a tiny flame of hope that refuses to be extinguished by the cold winds of their silence. But what you do not see is that your detachment is the very thing that is shattering their illusion of control. Last night, they felt the absolute weight of that flame starting to dim. They sat in the quiet, watching the shadows dance across the wall, realizing that the comfort they always took in your waiting is completely gone. For the first time, they looked at their life and saw a future where you are no longer a part of it, a future where your warmth is completely directed at someone else, or simply kept for yourself. And that vision sent a deep, echoing chill straight to their soul. They began to replay the last look you gave them, the last words you spoke, searching for any sign that you might still be holding on. They realized that you gave them a version of love that people spend a lifetime searching for, a love that was fierce, patient, and completely unconditional. They sat there in the dark, overwhelmed by the realization that they traded a diamond for shiny stones, and the emptiness of their current path became too heavy to bear. They felt an unbearable longing to undo the distance they created. My beloved child, do not doubt the work that is being done in the dark. The ego can only pretend to be satisfied for so long before the truth of the heart demands to be heard, and last night, their heart spoke louder than their pride ever could. They are finally understanding that the quiet life they thought they wanted without you is not peace at all. It is just a profound, echoing loneliness that they do not know how to escape. I know you have spent so many hours wondering if you are just a distant memory to them now. You look at your phone, you look at the screen, and the emptiness of that digital space can make you feel so small. You have had to teach your heart to stop reacting to every notification, to stop hoping that their name will pop up, and to accept the cold reality of the silence they chose. But what you do not realize is that your absence has created an empty void in their life that no one else can fill. Last night, the universe forced them to look at the truth of what they have become without you. They sat in the dim light, realizing that they have been running on autopilot, going through the motions of a life that feels completely devoid of color. They looked at the people they have surrounded themselves with, only to realize that those connections are shallow, built on vanity, and lacking the deep, soulful understanding that you provided. They realized that they are starving for your energy. In the quiet hours, they remembered the way you used to pray for them, the way you wished for their success, and the absolute sincerity in your voice whenever you spoke their name. They realized that in a world where everyone is wearing a mask, you were the only one who truly saw them, flaws and all, and still chose to hold them in a sacred light. A deep wave of sorrow hit their chest last night, as they realized how foolishly they threw away a love that was sent directly from the divine. They felt an overwhelming need to seek your forgiveness, even if they don't know how to ask for it. My beloved child, do not let the lingering doubts make you question your path. You did not lose them, they lost you, and the weight of that loss is finally catching up to their soul. Last night, they were forced to admit that they are completely broken inside, and the only person who holds the pieces to their healing is the very person they left behind in the dark. I want you to close your eyes for a moment and listen to the stillness that surrounds you. For weeks, you have carried a heavy question in your soul, asking if the love you gave was completely invisible to them. You look at how easily they seem to navigate their days, how they smile in front of the world. And you wonder if they ever sit down and remember the promises that were made in the quiet. But I am here to tell you, appearances are the biggest illusion of the human ego. Last night, the weight of that illusion became too heavy for them to carry. They sat in the dark, watching the world move on outside their window, and they felt an intense, undeniable ache in their chest. They realized that they have been running on a treadmill of empty distractions, trying to fill a container that can only be filled by the pure, unadulterated warmth of your spirit. They looked at their phone, staring at your name, realizing that the silence between you is a monument to their own fear. They began to replay the conversations you used to have late at night, the moments when they were vulnerable, when they bared their soul to you in a way they have never done with anyone else. They realized that you were the only person who didn't just look at their surface, but actually reached into the deepest parts of their heart and brought them peace. A sudden wave of intense clarity hit them, making them realize that by choosing their pride over your love, they didn't protect themselves, they just isolated their soul. They felt a spiritual pull toward you so strong that it physically kept them awake until the dawn. My beloved child, do not let the current silence make you doubt the seeds that have been planted. The universe is working on the back of their mind, breaking down the stubborn walls of their ego piece by piece. Last night, they were forced to acknowledge that no matter how far they run, every single road they take keeps leading them straight back to the thought of you. I want you to take a moment and realize the true weight of your worth. For a long time, you have carried the burden of feeling like you were easily pushed aside, like the love you invested was just a passing shadow in their life. You look at their social media, you look at their outward appearance, and you see a version of them that looks entirely untouched by your absence. But I am here to tell you, the outward world is nothing but a stage where the ego performs its final act. Last night, the curtain fell, and they were left with nothing but the truth. As they sat alone in the deep silence, they realized that they have been trying to fill a sacred space in their heart with cheap, temporary substitutes. They tried to replace your conversation with shallow talk, and they tried to replace your healing energy with the loud noise of the crowd. But last night, the noise stopped working. They looked at their hands, and they felt the absolute emptiness of what they have chosen. They began to remember the way you used to look into their eyes, a look that didn't judge them, a look that didn't want to change them, but simply accepted them for exactly who they were. They realized that in their foolish race to protect their own pride, they walked away from the only person who offered them a love that was completely untainted by the world. A heavy wave of longing settled over them last night, making them realize that your absence is not just a temporary break. It is a massive, echoing void that is draining the color from their entire life. They felt an unexplainable urge to call you, to just hear your breath on the line, just to know that you are still under the same sky. My beloved child, do not let their outward silence fool you. The universe is putting them through a necessary season of isolation, forcing them to sit with the consequences of what they threw away. Last night, they finally admitted to themselves what their pride had fought against for months. Without your light, their world is completely dark. I hear the quiet questions you ask when you look out your window at the moving world. You see people laughing, you see couples walking, and you wonder if you were just a temporary stop on their journey, a person they could easily forget once the distance became real. You have fought so hard to keep your heart from breaking, choosing to wrap yourself in a blanket of silence, hoping that time will finally wash away the ache. But what your physical eyes cannot see is the silent warfare happening in their mind because of your absence. Last night, the illusion of their happiness completely shattered. They found themselves sitting at the edge of their bed, looking at the floor, feeling a profound weight that they could no longer explain away. They realized that every single thing they have done since they walked away from you has been an attempt to running from their own shadow. They tried to tell themselves that they were doing fine, but last night, their soul refused to cooperate with the lie. They looked at their life and realized it has become an empty, echoing hallway. They began to remember the late-night talks, the way your voice could instantly lower their anxiety, and how you understood the things they never even had to say out loud. They realized that they traded a connection that was blessed by the universe for temporary, superficial validation that leaves them feeling completely empty. A deep, piercing regret settled into their spirit last night, as they looked at the bridge they burned and realized they don't even know how to begin rebuilding it. They felt an intense, spiritual pull toward you, as if their heart was begging yours for one more chance to make things right. My beloved child, do not let the silence make you doubt the hidden shift. The universe is stripping away their pride, making them face the cold reality of what it means to live without your light. Last night, they finally broke down inside, realizing that you were the best thing that ever happened to them, and they are terrified that they have lost you forever. I see you walking through your days with a quiet, unmatched grace. You have stopped asking why the universe allowed them to walk away, and you have stopped looking for answers in the places that only brought you pain. You have poured your energy back into your own hands, choosing to rebuild your life block by block, finding peace in your own breath and your own progress. But what you do not see is that your healing has left them stranded in their own confusion. Last night, they felt the absolute weight of your absence as a permanent reality. They sat in the quiet hours of the morning, watching the world remain perfectly still, and they realized that they have been chasing shadows. They looked at the freedom they thought they wanted, only to find that it feels like a desert, vast, empty, and completely cold without your light. They realized that they threw away a connection that was meant to anchor their soul. All for temporary illusions that mean absolutely nothing to them now. They looked at their own choices, and a profound wave of regret washed over their spirit. They began to remember the purity of your touch, the genuine care in your voice, and the way you always made them feel safe, no matter how chaotic the world became. They realized that no matter who they talk to, no matter who they try to bring into their life, no one carries the same divine frequency that you do. A deep, undeniable panic settled into their chest last night, a sharp realization that they may have broken the one bond that was truly sacred, and they are terrified that you have closed the door for good. They felt an unexplainable, powerful pull to reach out, a spiritual urge to mend what they carelessly broke. My beloved child, do not let the lingering silence make you doubt the shifts in the unseen. The universe is stripping away their pride, making them sit in the cold space of their own ego until they are ready to face the truth. Last night, their heart finally admitted what they had been denying for months: they are completely, utterly lost without you. I know there are moments when you sit in the absolute quiet and wonder if the universe has forgotten about the love you carried. You have spent months transforming your pain into power, refusing to settle for anything less than what your soul deserves. You have wrapped yourself in a beautiful, unbreakable shield of detachment, choosing to let go of the wheels of control and letting the divine take over. But what you do not see is that your absolute detachment is the very thing that is shattering their reality. Last night, they reached the absolute breaking point of their own silence. As they sat alone, listening to the ticking of the clock, they realized that your energy has completely pulled back from them. For the first time, they felt the terrifying chill of a life where you are truly, completely gone. They looked at the paths they chose, the pride they protected, and they realized that their ego has won them nothing but an empty, echoing room. They realized that they traded a lifetime of unconditional warmth for a temporary moment of stubborn pride. In the deepest hours of the midnight, they replayed the very last conversation they had with you, dissecting every word, searching for any lingering hint of hope. They realized that you gave them a version of love that most people spend lifetimes searching for, a love that was patient, fierce, and entirely sacred. A heavy, suffocating wave of longing took over their heart, and for the first time in months, their tears fell in the dark, mourning the bridge they so carelessly burned. They felt an unexplainable, desperate need to undo the distance. A spiritual cry to find their way back home to you. My beloved child, do not doubt the heavy work being done in the silent spaces of the night. The ego can only pretend to be satisfied for so long before the truth of the spirit demands to be heard, and last night, their soul broke completely. They are finally understanding that without your light, their journey is just a lonely road leading to nowhere. My beloved child, we have reached the final gates of this long, winter season. Look back at the person you were when this painful distance first began, and look at the warrior you have become today. You have crossed the fires of doubt, you have survived the cold nights of silence, and you did it all without losing the purity of your soul. You surrendered your pain to the hands of the universe, and because you trusted the divine timing, the spiritual balance has been completely restored. The connection between your souls is no longer a source of heavy burden. It has become a bridge of absolute awakening. Last night, as the dawn began to break over their restless hours, they made a quiet, permanent vow to themselves. They looked at the ruins of their own pride, and they realized that no amount of ego is worth losing a love that was written in the stars. They are no longer running from the truth, they are actively looking for a way to return to your warmth, to stand before you not with excuses, but with absolute honesty and vulnerability. The distance is dissolving, and the light you carry has finally won the unseen battle. Go to sleep tonight with a completely light heart, my precious child. Your prayers have been heard, your worth has been fully proven, and the beautiful union you surrendered to the divine is making its way back to your physical reality. Trust the peace that is settling into your spirit right now, for your story is not ending in heartbreak. It is just beginning a magnificent, new chapter of deep, everlasting love.